I want to talk about what's happening to some of the U.S. service members who are returning from overseas, and also in particular about service members of past foreign wars that we have. These people have given up life and limb and been exposed to dangerous substances at times and severe emotional and psychological trauma. And they're coming home, and Veterans Affairs has made promises, the government has made promises, our representatives have promised them things in writing. And when it comes time for them to go and collect on those benefits, in some cases today they're taking care of people quite a bit better than they used to, but I've seen veterans who are losing out entirely. They might get disability payments, partial compensation, but they're suffering from exposure to things like Agent Orange, and they're developing health problems that will kill them. And while they're waiting for lump sum compensation for past exposure to these substances, they're dying, and they never see that compensation. The government has put them on what they call wait lists, and that money is never paid. They're hoping that they can wait out these veterans who are sick and who are dying so that they can avoid ever having to pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases. I saw this happen to somebody. They were having all sorts of health problems, and my step-grandfather was one of those people, and he had type 2 diabetes, he suffered from dementia, he had hammer toes, he had participated in the Korean War, and I don't know his full medical history, but basically the VA wanted to chop off his toes, and if he hadn't had somebody there to advocate for him, that's exactly what they would have done. He was poor and ignorant and uneducated, and he spent his entire life poor, and then after he got out of the service, he ended up working in construction for many, many years, pouring cement and doing electrical work, eventually becoming a journeyman electrician. And he ended up having to depend on Social Security, and basically I think he was getting a VA payment every month too, but it wasn't anywhere near enough to live on. It totaled to be about $1,700 a month. And that's the compensation that they're giving to our veterans. And that's almost, I would say, close to maybe double what the average person gets from Social Security, but it's still not enough to live on. He ended up having a marriage of convenience with my grandmother, and he would stay with her for food and shelter and for companionship, and she kept him for protection. And he was like a bodyguard, basically, for her, and a companion to take her to the doctor and drive her around. And what's basically happening to people after they've gone into the service and they return home is that they're not being taken care of for the most part. I mean, you've heard about recently at Fort Hood, for instance, they've had over 24 soldiers now, from what I understand, almost 24 soldiers that they know of that have been either killed or they've disappeared from the base just in 2020 alone. And that's terrible, that they're losing track of people, that people are being murdered and things of that nature. It's tragic, but it doesn't need to be this way. We need to look after people better, especially our service members, because they sacrifice everything so that we can have a chance at peace and freedom. And what's going on is that they are they're not being provided the same level of care that they're giving to us as Americans, as people. They are dying